Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. So before I get into the news, I want to rant for a moment, if you will allow me to do so, and I know you will because I'm the one with the buttons on the microphone. Like, obviously, you could stop listening if you don't want to hear the rant, or you can fast forward. But something happened a couple of days ago that has gotten the internets, at least the libertarian section of the internets, shall we say, a bit in a tizzy. Apparently, someone leaked some nude photos that I have not seen, nor have I shared because I have not seen them. I've not found links or been given links or anything of the sort. But apparently somebody leaked some nude photos of a libertarian activist. And now there are basically two camps. The one camp is saying, well, if you didn't want everybody in the world to see your naked picture, then you never should have taken the naked picture in the first place. And then the other camp is saying, just because somebody takes a naked photo doesn't mean that they want everybody to see it. Like, they took a naked photo, they sent it to somebody that they trusted, and that trust was violated. So I guess I'm sort of, asking myself on air, not during the Ask Me Anything, but where do I fall on this? And I have to sort of fall in the latter category of I believe that somebody's trust was violated. And to claim that, well, if you didn't want everybody to see it, then you shouldn't have taken the photo. That's absolutely absurd. It's victim blaming. It's the same sort of thing of, well, if you didn't want raped, you shouldn't have worn a short skirt. Or if you didn't want robbed, you shouldn't have walked into a neighborhood that you knew had a criminal in it. Well, there are valid reasons to do those things. Short skirts look good. Women feel attractive in short skirts, so go ahead, wear the short skirt. Here's an idea, and I'm talking specifically to the guys here. Here's an idea. If you see a naked photo of an attractive woman, don't share it with other people. I know you might be tempted to be like, wow, everybody needs to see this. But no, you were sent the photo because somebody wanted you to see it, and they trusted you to not be an a-hole and give it to everybody in the world. So, don't violate their trust. And same thing goes with if you see somebody with a nice watch or a big fat wallet, don't steal it from them. If you see a woman in a short skirt, don't rape her. These are simple, basic things. And I know that some people are going to wind up saying, well, sharing a photo is not the same. Well, true, it's not. But at the same time, if you are blaming the person whose trust was violated, then you're victim blaming. And I realize that it's not a victim in the same sort of way of where, they were physically injured or they had some of their possessions taken from them, but they are still a victim of having their trust violated. And while it certainly would not go to, the level of crime punishable in court, and yet I know that some states have what they call the revenge porn laws, to where, it might be in some places punishable in court, but there's definitely what I would consider to be a tort. And a tort is different from a crime in that a tort is something where you have done something to cause non-tangible damages, if that makes sense. So you've harmed someone in some way, but there's not a way to where you can actually put a number on the thing that was damaged. So, for instance, a lot of times you will hear, and I've not heard this talked about in several years, but several years ago there was, the big national debate about tort reform. to where people would sue a doctor for malpractice, and in addition to lost wages and whatever medical bills they racked up that they should not have, they were given these other compensations of things that, where there's no way to really calculate. So like the pain and suffering is, really what that's the way the courts sort of try to define it, is, pain and suffering and emotional damages. But that's all wrapped into the tort of there was something that had happened to you. We can't necessarily put a number on it or calculate a way to make you whole, so we're just going to pull a number basically out of a hat. That's sort of what the McDonald's lady, and I don't even remember how long ago this was. I think I was in high school at the time, where the lady went to the McDonald's, she got the cup of coffee, and she put it between her legs, and she squeezed, and coffee went all over everywhere, and she wound up getting awarded like $39 million in pain and suffering and medical damages. But the vast majority of that was the pain and suffering. It was, the tort, if you will. So basically, the point here is, if you want people to keep sending you naked photos, don't share them with the world, because sooner or later, people are going to stop doing that. And also, I've seen some people say, like, well, you just should not trust anybody. And that's an absolutely horrible way to go through life. And I realize that, most people probably are not being completely sincere when they say don't trust anybody. And the reason that I say that is, if you go to a restaurant, you trust the waiter or waitress will bring you the food that you order. You trust that the cook will cook the food that you order and not poison the food. If you really don't trust anybody, then you can't really leave your house. And even then, you're putting trust in the people that built the house, unless you were the person that built the house yourself, in which case you're putting trust in yourself, which is still kind of putting trust in somebody. So, like, I don't buy the whole thing of don't trust anybody, and I don't think that anybody that espouses that motto goes through life not trusting anybody. Do you really, if you're saying don't trust anybody, do you not think that the cashier at the grocery store is going to give you the correct change? Because you're trusting them for that moment in time where they are holding your money. You are trusting that they are going to give you the money back that they owe you. So that's a level of trust. And secondly, I would say, just sort of like a word of advice, if you are one of these people that say don't trust anybody, then you should not expect anybody to trust you. Because it seems that those are the people that want to screw people over and not really be held accountable for it, because then they can just always say, well, I told so-and-so that they shouldn't trust anybody. Like, that it was their fault that they trusted that I would do what I said that I was going to do. And again, like, that's a horrible way to go through life, not trusting anybody. But like I said, like, that's totally impossible. You have to trust somebody. And I hope you trust me, at least enough to know that I'll come back and give you some news after this short break. The Doublespeak Dictionary by Leslie Starr O'Hara satirizes the marked difference between the ideal of we the people and the reality of we the elite, while offering an insightful glimpse into the clockworks of the totalitarian mind. Ever irreverent, but never irrelevant, the Doublespeak Dictionary serves as a subversive and humorous, but timely reminder that the emperor has no clothes. The Doublespeak Dictionary is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for t-shirts, precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. There's an Amazon shopping iframe built into the website, or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. That's shop.fppradio.com. Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. Now, I want to get into the news, but first I want to make sure that I tell you about liberty.me. Yes, I know it's another social networking site, but unlike other sites like Facebook and MySpace, if MySpace is still actually a thing, I think it is. But unlike that, or Tumblr, or some of these other sites, Twitter, Liberty.me is basically all of the best parts of social media, of running a website, like a blog. And again, I hate the term blog, but it applies in certain cases. But it takes all of those plus the chat functions and the group functions of Facebook, and it puts those all together, and it gives you other things. There are I'm not sure if there's audiobooks. I know that there are ebooks, there are Liberty guides. They do have audio available on liberty.me. There is all that and so much more. And because you have to pay for liberty.me, it keeps away the trolls. So the people that have these fake accounts on Facebook that all they want to do is start arguments, yeah, those people aren't at liberty.me because they don't want to have to pay to be a troll. So liberty.me, and if you sign up, make sure you use referral code FPP Radio. That's liberty.me, referral code FPP Radio. So I want to cover something that has made national headlines, or at least I've seen friends of mine on Facebook from all across the country sharing this story, and it's actually something that is taking place right down the road for me. Like, literally about 10 minutes away from where I am recording this show right now is the Monadnock Regional High School, and that is where a controversy, if you will, has arisen. The story here comes from the Keene Sentinel, and if you follow like the Free Keene blog at all, then you will know that the Keene Sentinel is generally called the Keene Slantinel because they slant things in a very pro-state manner. But I'm actually pleasantly surprised with the fairness of this article. Again, it comes from the Keene Sentinel, and they report a Monadnock Regional Middle School student and her mother are seeking a public apology from a teacher they say unfairly punished and humiliated the 8th grader for exercising her right to sit during the Pledge of Allegiance. Interim Superintendent Keith M. Pfeiffer said school officials have dealt with the situation and will not be discussing it publicly any further. Fatima Smart, who is 14 years old, and she lives in the town of Swansea, said in an interview last week that to her, saying the Pledge of Allegiance means a person is showing respect for the nation's government. She doesn't like the government, and it has, or rather, she doesn't like the government and what it has been doing, and that is why she chose to sit during the Pledge of Allegiance. She was asked if she had specific gripes about the government. She said, "I'm okay with the country, but not the government." And she doesn't have anything specifically, but said rather she, quote, dislikes a lot of things about it. She had sat during the pledge in other classes during the school year, and no one called her out on it until her first day of cooking class in mid-March, when she says the teacher, Miss Mercier, motioned to her to stand during the salute. And I like how they mention, or rather they call it a salute. Now, something that confused me at first was this whole thing about like the first day of cooking class being in March. But apparently, like, they don't do class or school the way they did when I was in school 20 some odd years ago. Actually, 19 years ago is when I graduated high school. So basically 20 years ago, to where, you know, like you would have the same class all year round. So now I think they're doing these block sort of things to where you have like 3 or 4 basically quarters of the school year. And I don't know if they actually wind up learning more, if they have more classes, if they have, you know, like 2 or 3 classes per like section of the year. I don't know how it works, but basically like they've cut the school year up into like semesters or something, and you have different classes instead of just 2 semesters of the same class. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of odd. I also, again, I like that they call it a salute, because that's really what you're doing, is you're saluting the flag. And the original motion for the salute during the Pledge of Allegiance was created by, I forget the guy's first name, but the last name was Bellamy. It was the Bellamy salute. And it looked very similar to what we think of as the Nazi salute, only the palm was facing up instead of facing down. And it began where you would put your hand over your heart, and then you would put it out. So that was the Bellamy salute. And Bellamy, the guy that invented the Pledge of Allegiance, was a Christian National Socialist, basically a Nazi. But he was a good Nazi because he was a Christian Nazi. He was a nationalist. And he also happened to, you guessed it, he sold flags. So he created the Pledge of Allegiance basically as a marketing tool for selling flags. And the Pledge of Allegiance has since been modified a couple of times since he created it. The salute was changed because, well, that looks too much like the Nazi salute, and the Nazis, they're bad, so we're just going to hand over the heart thing. So the story here continues. After the cooking teacher, Vicky Mercier, motioned for her to stand up, Fatima says, "I shook my head no." Once the pledge was over, Fatima said Mercier told her it was not okay to sit during the salute, that Mercier's father was in the military and Fatima's actions were disrespectful. Mercier continued that if Fatima wanted to sit during the pledge, she should just leave the classroom. Quote, "Then she told me to leave the classroom and I sat outside in the hallway for a while." Fatima said she felt embarrassed and upset, especially with the exchange taking place in front of the entire class of about 17 or 18 students. After about 10 minutes, she said that the teacher had her come back into the classroom. The teacher then told the other students that anyone who did not participate in the pledge would have to wait outside until the pledge was done. And let me just sort of pause here to let you know what the law is in New Hampshire on stating the Pledge of Allegiance. There is something that's called the New Hampshire School Patriot Act that requires schools to have a voluntary time to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll talk about requiring things to be voluntary and finish this article when we come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Hey, this is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends radio show. I've been working with computer programmer Derek Slopey to create Fiend Phone. I'm using Fiend Phone right now to talk with and record one of my co-hosts in real time. Take it, Davi.
Hey, this is Davi Barker, and I'm 1,000 miles away from Michael, but we sound like we're in the same room.
We sure do, Davi. So, Davi, please tell the nice people more about Fiend Phone.
FiendPhone is free, open-source software that opens up a global world of possibilities for collaborative, high-quality remote voice media production, and I'm digging it.
People can try the Windows beta version of FiendPhone right now at fiendphone.com. But we're also raising money to vastly improve FiendPhone and vastly improve independent talk media worldwide.
So go to fiendphone.com to help out. Who will build the audio roads? We will, with your help.
That's fiendphone.com. FEENPHONE.com. Foxtrot, Echo, November, phone.com.
FiendPhone. I never knew remote audio could be this good.
Bitcoin Not Bombs is a launching pad for nonprofits and social entrepreneurs into the financial freedom of the Bitcoin economy. Bitcoin Not Bombs offers premium publicity campaigns designed to facilitate an organization's adoption of Bitcoin as a payment system. Bitcoin Not Bombs is fully committed to being the hub of the nonprofit sector of the Bitcoin economy, maximizing the potential cross-promotion of all our clients and commercial partners. To learn more, visit bitcoinnotbombs.com. Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. So in New Hampshire, all public schools, and I'm not sure if this applies to private schools as well, but all public schools are required by state law to have a time where students can voluntarily say the Pledge of Allegiance. And, of course, if it's anything like the voluntary Pledge of Allegiance that was said when I was in school, it was led by teachers, and it was not exactly voluntary. There were things like what is happening to Fatima Smart, where a teacher would say you have to stand, and if you don't, then you are being disrespectful. And let me just pause on the whole, like, can you require something to be voluntary thing to talk about being is it disrespectful to sit silently while other people pray to the government? And I would say if you're sitting silently, that you are absolutely being respectful. What is disrespectful is forcing students to basically pray to the government. And I realize that, not everybody sees it that way, but that's what it is. You are saying, like, I pledge my allegiance to this flag, to this piece of cloth that represents things being done by my government. Or you're at least told that it's your government, when in fact, they don't actually represent you. You have never actually consented, or at least I'm guessing you haven't. Maybe you have. Based on Reuters polls that I've seen, like 62% of Americans say that they never consented to what's being done. And I'm guessing if you're listening to this show, you're part of that 62% that has not consented. But if you have, then okay, like, you're the, one out of however many that did consent. Like, you're the 38%. But no, so you're saying, like, I pledge my allegiance to this piece of cloth and to the government that it supposedly represents. And, like, claiming that the nation is indivisible, when in point of fact, like, the United States of America was founded on divisibility. There were people from 13 colonies who got together and said, we no longer want to be part of the British Empire. We hereby divide our loyalty, or not loyalty. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're dividing it. Like, this part of the empire is being divided off, therefore divisible. So if something that began as being divisible can't be divided, like, the United States is not a prime number. And I realize that I'm totally mixing metaphors here, but prime numbers are numbers that can only be divided by themselves and the number 1. So, like, 7 is a prime number because you can't divide it evenly by anything else. So, yeah, like, it's not indivisible, but that's the lie that you're told. And again, if you are sitting quietly, then you're totally being respectful. To claim that, and I've talked about this before, that, like rights don't come from dead people. And that's basically what the teacher is trying to claim. Well, my father fought in the military, and this is disrespectful to him. He fought for your rights. And those rights include the right to not stand up and pray to the state. Those rights include the right to speak dissenting things against things that the government has done supposedly in your name. If you exercise your rights, you are actually being more respectful to the people that supposedly fought for your rights than if you just sit down, shut up, and do as you're told. So let me go back and talk about can you force things to be voluntary? No, it's either voluntary or it's required. You can't have it both ways. And, the thing to do here, obviously, the main thing, just get rid of government-funded schools, and then this wouldn't be a problem anyway. But absent that, stop trying to force people to do things voluntarily. You can't force voluntary compliance. It's either forced or it's voluntary. The article here continues. After Fatima sat in the hallway for about 10 minutes, and the teacher asked her to come back in the room. At this point, Fatima said she left the class and walked out of school. On her way home, she was picked up by a Swansea police officer who brought her back to the school and left her with the assistant principal, Ryan Schaefer, and that according to a police report. Mercier did not respond to request for comment. Pfeiffer said in an email that he can't talk about personnel issues unless an employee has broken the law, and I would dare say that by requiring a student to do something that the law says is voluntary, technically the employee broke the law, but who's actually going to enforce it? Because it's not that there's no punishment, in the statute that says you must have a voluntary time. There's no punishment that says if you don't, then here's what happens. So can you really break a law that has no punishment? And yes, that's a rhetorical question. The principal, or I think this was the superintendent, Pfeiffer said, quote, Fatima will be allowed to exercise her legally protected right not to stand for the flag, and she is no longer in that class. The situation as described by Fatima is not unique. News outlets across the country have reported accounts of students being punished for choosing not to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance. The Bangor Daily News out of Maine reported in March that the Washington, D.C.-based American Humanist Association had written a letter to Belfast, Maine area school officials saying that a high school student was wrongly punished for sitting during the salute. The association's mission, according to its website, is to advance humanism, an ethical and life-affirming philosophy free of belief in any gods or other supernatural forces. According to the website penlive.com, in April, the association claimed a middle school student in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, was humiliated by a school nurse who violated the student's constitutional right to free speech. The nurse reportedly denied care to the student after the student refused to stand during the Pledge of Allegiance. And in October of 2014, the Los Angeles Times reported that officials with a school district in Ventura County, California, apologized to a high school student who felt he was being forced by a teacher to say the pledge. The article now jumps back to the situation down in Swansea, New Hampshire, and they write, Fatima's mother, Carrie Boscarino, said she believes her daughter was being unnecessarily punished and humiliated for something allowed by both state law and her child's constitutional rights. And let me real quick, before the show ends, talk about the constitutional rights thing. When I was in 8th grade, do you know what I was told about constitutional rights? I was told that I don't have them until I turned 18. Yeah, that's what I learned in government school. Hey, show is over. Don't forget, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday online at fppradio.com. And send those questions for the Ask Me Anything, AMA at fppradio.com.